Welcome, brothers and sisters, to the chapel of His Holy Light. My name is Brother Sebastian, and before we even begin, I have to ask forgiveness of you, for I have been struck with an illness, and I hope that you find in your hearts kindness to share your blessings with me so I can soon get better. My voice is not as strong as it should be to preach His holy word, but I still have to ask you, who are you looking up to in your life? Oh, preacher, such a forward question right at the start. I know, but please do tell me, for we all need those shining beacons to guide us in life. We have rules, laws, obligations, which set boundaries, of course, force our actions to follow some principle, but these are harsh things, sturdy things. Fear of punishment is the main fuel to obey them. I am talking about ideals here, about hopes, about aspirations. You see someone and you are astounded with admiration, and you think to yourself, this is what men and women alike are supposed to be. I know the spectrum of answers to that question can be so wide, so let's explore a bit. Let's bring up a few examples, and I promise I won't once mention any members of the Ministerum such as myself, because as it is written in chapter 4 verse 532 of the Humilitas, for the proud who stand tall in their own glory will be struck down, that the Emperor's light may reach the deserving. Let's start with the most simple answer. Family. It is our parents who bring us into this world so we can contribute to the glory of our Imperium. They care for us, guide us so we all grow in accordance to His holy tenets. During our first days, they are the ones to bring us to the chapel. They come seeking blessings for our health and safety, and later in life, when we're grown, they are the ones to teach us how to properly give back for the blessings we have received. That's the ideal, of course. Not all families are cut from the same cloth. I know, however, that for some of you, the time of the upbringing was much harder. They were much more interested in the drink or other men and women, and not just their spouse. Blasphemers, thieves, those who scorned work, and those who wouldn't take you to the chapel to hear His holy word. For their bad influence in your life and the hardship you have thus endured, I am deeply sorry, and I am proud of each one of you that despite all this, you have found your way here. Where the parents have failed, for you there must have been others who led you out of the darkness, and they have my gratitude, and to them I bestow blessings in His holy name. There are others, however, and in their case I hope most of you, if not all, will find admiration and thanks in your hearts. Think of all the catastrophes that we hear about on the daily. Fires in the furnace sectors, floods from the rusted pipes of the water distribution systems, depressurizations and explosions. You've seen those before. The alarm system goes off and the mass of people running in the opposite direction. They trample over each other, faithless as if their speed and strength was going to save them and not His divine decree. There are those, however, that run in the exact opposite direction. Hub block responders and fire suppression teams in their protective gear, guided in their efforts by His will. Theirs is the true strength and true faith. Think of their actions and how you benefit from them each day, and don't tell me that it's not something to aspire to. Speaking of benefit, every day there are those looking to benefit off of you. Bandits, thieves, would-be robbers, heretics, and other problem seekers and problem makers, those unable to appreciate the life we all get to live in our Imperium. Those looking to profit on other honest Ivers, just like you and just like me. Merely 3 days ago we had a break-in here in this very chapel. Here! I don't know what these men were looking for, The only thing of worth here is the Emperor's blessing, and you can come through the front door for that. But luckily, they were quickly apprehended by the Hive enforcers. I know, we've all met spoiled apples in the basket of our local precinct. Some of us, even completely without merit, met the blunt end of the moles they carry. They are, however, often the only ones protecting our families and homes. To them, however rotten some of them might happen to be, we turn for help and safety. Help and safety! And what is safety, my brothers and sisters, if not the feeling of a full belly, or the feeling of warm embrace of heat pouring forth from Forge Criozo's approved and standardized radiator unit? How worse off we would all be without such blessings. How tired, how slow, how unproductive. Remember then those who allow us to enjoy those mercies. The ever-patient, ever-diligent clerics of the Administratum, who each day toil through the endless reams of parchment and data streams, charting the holy logistics that guide those goods to our homes and shops, conveniently placed, of course, upon the factory grounds. How much quicker we are to enjoy the comforts of our home after long shifts when we may complete our purchases just as we lay down our duties. But forgive my rambling, we were meant to speak of the clerics. The clerics, of how vital their work and yet how overlooked. Where the enforcers we mentioned may daily find themselves under fire, the greatest dangers our record keepers face are, I guess, paper cuts and weary eyes, yet I hope you see them as I do, quiet, patient, humble, and above all, necessary. So as you see, my friends, there are many paragons of virtue around us, some whose names you know by heart, and others who do not come to mind so quickly. By their deeds we judge them, and by their deeds we call them worthy examples to follow. But they are still only people, and people, no matter how noble, can only rise so high. To reach greater heights, one must in time shed the limitations of simple humanity and become something more. And you know of whom I speak. Yes, my dearest flock, today we shall attempt to speak of the Space Marines. His own angels, his chosen, his perfected, his wrath made flesh. And I say attempt for good reason, for even if we spoke for days without pause, our tongues would still fail to paint a picture worthy of these magnificent beings. Transformation. Yes, this is the first step. For as I have said, we simple men and women can only rise so high before we strike an impassable obstacle on our path towards his throne. The Adeptus Astartes begin by passing through this obstacle. They are taken as children, singled out from among countless others. There are many reasons for this choice. I am sure early signs of virtue, purity, focus, and bravery, all required for the road ahead. Those of weak will or frail body will perish, for not all are meant to face the barrier I speak of. Yet some, despite the blows, despite the hunger and pain, all those things born of being merely human, will rise again and again from their knees to strike at that invisible wall, and with each strike they grow stronger, their bodies accepting ever more change, expanding and hardening, their minds turning to steel. At last they see that wall shatter before them, and they step forward towards his golden throne, closer than any of us could ever dream. This marks the end of their transformation, both physical and mental. In that moment they cast off the constraints, the chains of simple humanity, and become his angels, the angels of death. But how do they do this, preacher? How do they become angels? I can already hear you asking, and I understand your curiosity, my dear congregation, It is the universal wish of faithful to witness, even in some small way, the holy works of our God Emperor. And truly, what work is more wondrous than the ascension of his Astartes warriors? Yet you must also understand that these matters are wrapped in reverent secrecy. Some of these rituals are known only to the most venerable of Space Marine veterans. If even among the Holy Battle Brothers such mysteries are not shared freely, then truly, how can you expect me to reveal them to you and swear that every word is truth? Please, do not place such a burden upon my humble shoulders. I fear I would simply collapse beneath its weight. I will, however, share with you the legends I have gathered during my years of study on Ophelia 7. For what kind of preacher would I be if I invited you into this chapel only to leave you, by the end of our meeting, still starving for his holy word, still needy, still filled with doubt? First, we shall speak of the aspirants themselves. How these blessed children are chosen to begin their journey upon this singular and sacred path. Then we will speak of the trials, for each step upon the road to his embrace is marked by hardship, suffering, and pain. They are the waters that cleanse the spirit. At last, we shall speak of the sanctification of their bodies. Even if none of you have ever seen an Astartes with your own eyes, you have looked upon the depictions in our humble chapel, and you know well how different they are from you and me. I have never met a family fortunate enough for their child to be taken to become such a warrior, despite all my years of service on the street of Ophelia, and here in our oh so charming hub block -468. Do not think, however, that this is because places like ours are ignored by the recruiter serfs, or even the battle brothers themselves. The truth, I will surprise you, is quite the opposite. Ferocity, self-reliance, strength, and keen and hungry mind. Where else would such traits flourish? Certainly not in the grand, comfortable halls of our masters. Their children are born for governance and diplomacy. They are made for times of peace. It is our children down here, on the streets in the dark corners of the Hive, among the barren wastes of death worlds, upon frozen hills and endless deserts. Those born with sheaves in their hands and minds ready to use them to secure their survival in the harshest of days. These are the ones worthy to be taken, to be purified of the sin of common humanity and taught the ways of true war. For down the path they walk, the goals are no longer simple, plain, and dare I say it, meaningless in the grand scheme of things. The goals become the protection of his imperium and the destruction of his foes. But preacher, I hear you say, these are the same children that roam in gangs as we leave our shifts in the forge, the ones who break into our homes and steal what little we have left. Young terrors who would thrust a shard of glass between our ribs just to take the handful of credits we earn for our work. And to that I say, yes, exactly. For you must understand that these are the seeds which, if tended correctly, may one day flourish into warriors of galaxy-wide renown. The God Emperor, in his eternal wisdom, does not seek the pampered or the peaceful. He has no need for the soft-handed, the book-bound, or the weak in his endless crusades. No, he seeks precisely those you have just described. He seeks the murderers, and the thieves, the cold killers, and the gang leaders. You cannot teach a timid soul to pick up a blade and drive it into a man's heart, but you can teach one who already knows such things to direct his anger and his hatred towards the proper foe. Now, do not mistake me. I am not saying you should refuse to defend yourself if the need arises, nor that these young ones ought to be allowed to roam freely, taking what they please. A chance at being chosen for his glorious cause is truly infinitesimal. Almost all of them will be broken, either by the endless toil we must all endure, or by the buttons of the enforcers if they refuse to accept their place among us. And remember this as well. If you are ever, Emperor forbid, forced to take action against these roaming gangs, think of it as a first step in separating the wheat from the chaff. The strong will survive and perhaps, in time, will be taken. Those who do not, well, such would have been their fate regardless in the trials I will soon describe. As hard as it may be for you to believe, there exist many different brotherhoods of the Space Marines. Though they all share the sacred bond with their father, the Primarch, they keep vigil over different worlds and battle different foes. These experiences shape their cultures, and in turn, their cultures shape their traditions. Look again at the holy images in our temple. Do not merely look upon the mighty figures themselves. Let your eyes wander to the backgrounds behind them. See the endless eyes behind the grey visage of the Space Wolf, the desert sands behind the proud Blood Angel, the fiery erupting mountains behind the noble Salamander. All these worlds are different, and so too are their rituals. Yet let us consider the similarities they may share. What do we all think when we see these landscapes? Whether scorching heat or freezing cold, we see conditions hostile to human life. And so, I believe, the first step for these blessed aspirants is to simply survive within them. Imagine those children abandoned somewhere far from home, without food or weapons, told only to make their way back to the safety of the fortress monastery. If we expect the Space Marines to be above us, simple humans, then we must expect them to endure what would kill any one of us. Step after step through blizzards of ice and storms of dust, battles against creatures of the wild that would tear us limb from limb. Only after fighting their way back, despite nature itself thirsting for their flesh and blood, would they be allowed to begin their true training. But sometimes mere endurance is not a sign enough. We expect the Emperor's warriors to be slayers of monsters, not those who simply slip from their grasp. And so I believe it is possible that these aspirants are tasked not only with returning alive, but with bringing back the carcass of some beast they have themselves slain. Armed with nothing but a makeshift spear and their own inborn cunning, I can see them battling trolls or great lizards of immense size and strength to prove their worthiness. You may think such task cruel or even impossible, but remember, the impossible is precisely what we expect the Battle Brothers of a chapter to be able to accomplish. They will be the ones standing firm against the endless swarms of tyrannid horrors. They will strive to outmaneuver the vile, self-proclaimed Eldar. The impossible is the baseline of the life they are being forged for. And if these children show no spark of that potential, even at this point, then perhaps they are not the ones upon whom the apothecaries and the veterans of the chapter should spend their precious time. Even after they return with the head of a slain beast in tow, their journey is far, far from over. Their success have made them equals, that's true, but equals they cannot remain. It is an honor reserved for the few to ascend into the ranks of the Brotherhood. From this point onward, each child must compete with all the others in the sparring pits, proving that they, and they alone, were destined by the great Emperor to serve. The training is grueling, of that I am certain, and many of them will fall dead upon the floor of the fighting grounds. But such is his will. Not all, of course. If they all have perished, it would be wasteful, and anyone who accuses our Imperium of neglecting its people or its resources would be lying through their teeth. Remember what I always tell you. Everything has its place and everyone has a role. Those who fail this stage will often become chapter serfs instead. For though it was revealed that their destiny was not to wear the holy armor, they may yet be blessed to polish that armor, to carry it, to care for it. A different fate, yes, but still placed within his grand design. Think of the children you see on the streets of our Hive, running with their little gangs and covens of thieves and whatnot. Hard and cruel are the trials that the older ones prepare for the newcomers, lured in by the promises of success and safety in the alleyways. Some will die even in their very first tasks. We see it all too often. Their small skulls crushed beneath a baton after a poorly attempted pickpocketing, or the lifeless bodies of the young shot down by a security during some ill-planned robbery. A few will succeed and move upward, only to discover that the true danger was never outside. It was always inside. Among their own, within their little hierarchies and schemes, they must fight for their place. Some act swiftly and decisively, others falter and find themselves pushed down, condemned to remain forever at the bottom of their petty groups. Why do I compare the aspirants of the great legions to the would-be gangers we see each day? Because the idea behind their trials is the same. I may have never walked the halls of a fortress monastery, nor have witnessed those few struggling to earn their place among their betters. But I know that even if the goal is different, the way is most certainly the same. How else can the weak be sifted out so the strong may be revealed? Might makes right, my dear congregation. Be it on our streets or upon the floors of a monastery, the strong prevail. For the strength shines in the eyes of our emperor, while the weak perish in the dark. Remain strong, my brothers and sisters. Remain strong in body, so your contributions to our imperium grow ever greater. But more so, remain strong in faith, that it may shine like a beacon among the dark currents. Finally, those of true strength have been chosen. The time of transformation may begin. I need not repeat the obvious, for you know it as well as I do. Space Marines are not simply men. This is why we call them angels, and so at last they must leave behind their human form and truly ascend. I believe it is under the watchful eye of the veterans of the chapter, guided by the will of our most holy emperor, that the miracles may begin to manifest. Yes, miracles, for such things cannot just simply be the result of mere biological processes or some mundane procedures, can they? No, this is an ascension. Boys become men and men become angels through the radiance of his endless blessings. I do not know how these things truly occur, for such secrets belong to the chapters alone, passed like inheritance from caring father to a loyal son and from primarch to his lineage. Yet in my mind's eye I see muscles strengthening until within days they may lift pillars of solid rockcrete. I see sinew and bones hardening, able to stand unbroken before enemy fire. I see skin turning to stone so that simple bullets glance harmlessly away. I even see their organs multiplying in ways unseen among ordinary people, for the bodies of the ascended are far beyond what our frail shells could ever support. To the unfaithful, to the heretic, these wonders might appear as mutations, but we know better. We know they are the works of the Emperor's own hand, his blessings made flesh. But these are matters of the body, and as I always tell you, it is the strength of the mind that truly matters. For without a fortified mind we would be nothing more than vessels, pawns, playthings for the unholy things that lurk in the dark. And so, on their way towards heaven, the minds of the angels must truly be purified and strengthened, walled round with belief and hatred alike, to withstand the machinations and trickery of Xenos and Heretic. It would be too close a reminder of the dark days of old, if, after such an ascension, a space marine could ever be led astray from his light by the secret schemes of the enemy. I know how strange such a possibility may sound, but I have seen the works of the foe, and believe me, there are powers capable of guiding even the proudest, strongest souls onto the path of shadow. That is why I always remind you to train your minds daily, to steel yourselves against doubt, to always avoid resting upon laurels of pride. For pride, my beloved flock, is a crack in the wall of faith, a weakness just waiting to be exploited. For the angels, however, simple lessons such as mine would never suffice. They must stand face to face with the enemies of mankind, and in such terrible encounters the corrupting influence of the foe is the strongest. No, their minds must be filled to overflowing with waters of righteous hate and holy disdain, defenses that will protect them across the centuries of their service. I believe a direct vision from the Emperor himself would be enough to fortify any warrior. But our galaxy is endless, and even a being of such infinite power as the God Emperor cannot gaze upon all its corners at once to grant sanctifying visions to every aspirant. How effective it would be if there was a way to, I don't know, harness such visions, to record in some sacred manner the feelings that come with them, and somehow then bestow those feelings upon the aspirants as the cornerstone of their spiritual defenses. Purification, sanctification, and restoration, all through holy indoctrination. And if any in this galaxy could achieve such a marvel, then surely it is the wisest and most venerable among the chapters. We have spoken of trials and of growth, and now at last we reach the moment of true ascension. From frail bodies to the very epitome of what it means to serve the Emperor of mankind, this is the hour in which they finally become worthy to stand before his light and feel fully the magnitude of his love and his pride. But for them to survive his gaze, they must finally cast aside the remnants of their human form and be bound forever to the holy power armor of a space marine. This shall be their true skin and their true visage, for they are no longer singular. They are a part of their chapter, part of glorious whole and thoroughly devoted to his cause. Where their minds were sanctified through the visions passed down by their elder brothers, their bodies are now sanctified by the armor they will wear into war. It cannot be a simple thing to join a warrior to such a relic. I am certain many rituals attend this moment, for an event of such grandeur demands reverence. The armor is whole, perfect, and eternal, their shield for countless battles yet to come, impenetrable and strong. Look once more upon the images in our chapel, the stained glass we were able to preserve, and gaze upon their magnificence. Where the angels must have been given a shield of ceramite and steel, we have been given hearts and minds full of faith, for to each of his followers the Emperor always grants the tools required for their role. And now, at last, they join his wars and his crusades, dropped into the fray of battle, holy bolter in hand, with the first shot they fire and the first enemy they send screaming back into whatever hell has spawned them. In that moment, their journey is finally complete. Thank you for listening to this sermon. I pray you found it nourishing and that its memory may ease your struggles in the days to come. If you wish to join our congregation, there are buttons in your data slates below. They will remind you of our next gathering. You can also send me a message through your personal device. I promise I will see each one of them and respond. Until then, may peace rest upon you and your families. May your minds remain clear and your hands efficient. I will see you again in 2 weeks.